Welcome back to another episode of Sports-Fixx. I am your host, Carson Becker, and we are back talking about Week 7 of the college football season. A lot of good games this weekend, some great ranked matchups. We'll get right into all the good games that's coming on this weekend. There's some great ranked games, a couple different conferences playing some good games. So we'll get right into it with a team that I haven't really talked about much since Week 1. It's Ohio State, number 1 team in the country, taking on number 17 Illinois. Another road game for the Buckeyes this week. They've been handling everyone pretty well all season. Defense only giving up 5.5 points a game so far, so they've played really well. Their offense has maybe not looked as good as people might want it to, but they're not really letting Julian Saint throw a whole lot. They're kind of letting him just get into his own rhythm, handing the ball off. The run game's really working this year so far for the Ohio State Buckeyes. So they're kind of letting the freshman QB kind of get into the rhythm of the game and not really like making him throw a whole lot, which I think is good for this freshman quarterback. And I think it's really helping him kind of fall into his own like rhythm. And he's one of the most accurate passers when he does pass the ball. So I think Ohio State has handled that Julian Saint situation very well so far this season. So I look for them to continue that. Ohio State favored by 14.5 in this one. They've been relying on that defense, like I said, all season. 5.5 points. That's not a lot of points against them. Their defense, red zone defense, has been insane. Their whole defense as a whole has been crazy. Not a lot of takeaways on their defense, but they're getting punts and putting up points on offense. Talk about putting up points. Illinois, they're averaging 37 points per game in this year so far, but they haven't gone up against a defense like this. This is the number 1 defense in the country, giving up only 5.5 points. And Illinois, they already have the one loss to Indiana where they got absolutely stomped. And they only put up like 10 points in that one. They cannot do that this week if they want to beat the Buckeyes, at least keep it competitive. I think they can potentially keep it competitive for maybe the first half, but I think for the most part, they're not going to be able to score enough on this Ohio State defense, and Ohio State's offense is really going to try to keep getting Jeremiah Smith involved when they can, kind of throw like maybe some short passes, get him the ball in space. You know he can break some tackles, so I think I have Ohio State winning this one pretty big, probably by more than 14. So give me Ohio State to win that one. That's a noon kickoff on Saturday, so look for that one. Could be a better game than I'm putting on. I could be wrong. But for Ohio State fans, hopefully not. Next game, we'll be going to the SEC, where the number 8 ranked Alabama Crimson Tide take on the 14th ranked Missouri Tigers. Alabama back on the road in this one, looking to continue their impressive season, coming off a great win against Vanderbilt, who beat them last year, and they got their sweet revenge last week, not even allowing a point in the second half. They've beat some good teams on the road. They beat a good Georgia team on the road. So they've had a very impressive season since that kind of fumble in the first game of the season against Florida State. So, and obviously Florida State turned out to be a much better team than people expected after only winning two games 2 years ago. So, but they've looked a lot better since that game. Ty Simpson's looked a lot better. Their defense has looked a lot better. Just as a whole, they've looked a lot better. But this Missouri team is pretty good. It's a team that not a lot of people are talking about. They've had a very good defense, a very good offense this year. Alabama would need to come out and score some points in this one. But also they'll need that defense to play very well in this one as well if they want to come away with a win. So I think I'm looking for Alabama kind of just keep playing how they're playing. Ty Simpson comes out early, throwing the ball, gets into his own little rhythm, and they run the ball as well, really well. So I think if they can give Ty Simpson time, which they couldn't in that Florida State game, and it proved to be a very troubling thing, they give him time on this Missouri defense. He's a very accurate passer. The problem is Missouri's defense actually gets pressure on the quarterback, unlike Georgia's defense, who really hadn't put a lot of pressure on QBs so far this year. The Tennessee game, they gave up a ton of points, and they really haven't put up that many points either. So this Missouri team is really good at putting pressure on the quarterback. They're good at getting to the quarterback. So Alabama would need to protect Ty Simpson in this one if they want to continue to see that success from him in this one. So I think this will be a great game. I think Missouri, they love running the ball. They have a really good run game. They need to limit their turnovers. Both teams probably need to limit turnovers in this one, but I think it should be a great game. Alabama is favored by 2.5 in this one, and I think it will be probably a 7-10 point game. I think I'm going to go towards Alabama in this one. I think I'm going to go Alabama wins this one by maybe a touchdown or so. But this should be a really great game. This is also a noon kickoff on Saturday. So look out for that one. That should be a great game as well. And now we're going to stay in the SEC with number 6 Oklahoma versus Texas, the Red River rivalry. I still think this game should be played on rivalry weekend with all the other rivalry games, but should be a really good game. We're getting a really good game on in week 7 of the football season, so it's another great game for this weekend. Texas, their offense has struggled. Arch Manning has not panned out to how people expected him to play as a first-year starter. A Manning, so of course they think he's going to be just coming out firing, but so that hasn't panned out. Oklahoma, on the other hand, has looked really great this year. Their defense has played really well. I think this is a low-scoring game. I think Oklahoma's offense really should be putting up a lot more points in some of these games than they are. And so I think it's just kind of become one of those things where they should be putting up more points, but they're really not. And it's all because of John Mateer. John Mateer, in the last, I think, 2 games, has led the team in passing yards, obviously, or not last 2 games, but the last two games he played. He led the team in passing yards, obviously, as the quarterback, but he also led the team in rushing yards. They've really struggled to run the ball this year, and it's really played a factor in their offense. Their offense has not been able to put up a lot of points when they should. Texas, they put up some points. They also have a very good defense. They maybe have the second best defense behind Ohio State, and we saw it in that Ohio State-Texas game early in the season where it was a 14-7 game because their defenses were just so good that their offenses really couldn't do much. So I think this is a great defensive battle in this one. Usually you see a pretty high-scoring game. I think it's a little different this year. I think we get a defensive battle in this one. At the moment, Oklahoma is favored by 1.5 points in this one. I think it's a low-scoring game. I think it comes down to the last possession, but I think if Mateer plays, Oklahoma wins, and if he doesn't, I think Texas wins. So that's what I have for that game right there. The next game I'll talk about, staying in the SEC, Georgia versus Auburn. Big thing with this one is Georgia has to go to Jordan-Hare. They have to go into Auburn and what is known as the Deep South's oldest rivalry. So it should be a great game. It usually is. Jordan-Hare is a very tough place to play. And speaking of that, the Deep South oldest rivalry, I got the trivia question of the day here. Does anybody know the oldest rivalry in college football? It's a very tough one. It's 2 teams you don't think about when you think about football. I'll give you a hint here. It's going to be 2 pretty prestigious schools, pretty like smart schools, I would say. And if you know kind of like the old history of college football, you might get one of these teams. So 2 very old teams, 2 teams obviously very old because it's the oldest rivalry, but 2 teams you don't think about when you think about football, and 2 pretty prestigious schools, smart schools that just aren't good at football anymore, but really were way back then. So I'll give you a couple seconds. If you need more time, pause the video. It's a very tough one. A lot of people probably aren't going to get it unless you know a lot of history of college football. It is Yale versus Princeton. Is the oldest rivalry. It dates back to 1873. And Princeton even won the first ever national championship of college football. That's why I said if you knew some way back history, you know Princeton won the first ever national championship just because there wasn't a lot of teams back then. But yeah, Yale versus Princeton, the oldest rivalry dating back to 1873. As we know, Georgia and Auburn, they call it the Deep South's oldest rivalry. So this should be a great game. Georgia's sitting at 4-1. 2-1 in the SEC. They can not afford to lose another SEC game if they want to play in that SEC championship. Most likely, 2 losses might put you out, might keep you in. I mean, we don't know. We don't know. The SEC is just gonna kind of kill each other for the rest of the season. So we'll see kind of how it pans out. Obviously, Georgia has the 1 loss to Alabama. Very good loss at home. It was a great game, but they've struggled on offense in a lot of these games this year, and they get to kind of slow starts. They don't really come out hot, and I think if this Auburn team comes out hot, kind of punches them in the mouth early, this could kind of turn into that Alabama game where they're fighting back and they're fighting against the crowd in this one as well, so that could also play a factor. Jordan-Hare, a very tough stadium to play. A lot of teams in the SEC think it's cursed because of all the things that happened down there in Jordan-Hare, the kick six, against Georgia versus Auburn not too long ago, the pick where 3 guys had the ball and it bounced up and then the guy caught it for a touchdown. So a lot of things that happen in Jordan-Hare. A lot of SEC teams don't like going down there and playing. So Georgia is favored by 3.5 in this one. I think they get it done. I think they do get it done. I think it's a slow, low-scoring game, a lot of defense in it. I think Georgia really needs to start really fast in this one if they want to keep the crowd out of it, kind of make it their own game. But I do see this one being close, but I think I am going to take Georgia in that one. So look out for that game. That should be a great game. That is a 7:30 kickoff, so that's a night game in Jordan-Hare. It's always a tough always a tough place to play. So, and the next game going to could get interesting as well. Number 15 Michigan taking on USC in Southern Cal. This game is interesting to me because USC is favored by 2.5 at home over the Wolverines, which isn't too much of a surprise because USC is a pretty good team, even though they're not ranked anymore. They were ranked when they played Illinois, but them playing at home, they have a pretty good home record. They're pretty hard to beat at home, and Michigan really hasn't played kind of up to how they should play. Bryce Underwood's been a little underwhelming so far. Their run game has been unbelievable. Their run game is very hard to stop, and that's going to be the big thing for USC in this one. Can they stop the run game? So, if they can stop the run game, make Bryce Underwood throw, we've seen that he has not shined on the road against teams that have made him throw. Against Oklahoma, even against Nebraska, he didn't really play that well overall, over like passing the ball. He didn't really play that well. Running the ball, they played really well. But so I think this game could be really good. We already got the Michigan coach talking crap, saying the only reason the stadium's going to be packed or sold out or whatever he said is because Michigan's coming to town. And Lincoln Riley responds with, "Oh, I don't care what he says. It's all business down there in USC." But this should be a good game. Like I said, USC will have to stop the run. They'll have to stop Michigan from running the ball, force them to pass. They need Bryce Underwood to pass in this game if they want to win. And then the other thing is they're going to need to put up some points. They're going to really need to put up some points in this one. They're not going to be able to completely shut down Michigan's run game, most likely. Most likely, Michigan's still going to get some big runs for touchdowns and stuff. But I think the big thing is can they stop them from running the ball all over? Can they slow down the run game and make them pass? And then on the other hand, can Michigan slow down USC's pass game, which has been pretty good this year as well and has won them a lot of games. So look for that one. That should be a great game. I think USC maybe pulls this one out. I think I'm gonna go with the 2.5 point favorite here and take USC in this one. I just think I think USC can slow down Michigan's run game just enough for them to put up enough points to beat Michigan in this one. So look for USC to win this one, in my opinion, but should be a great game all the way through, I think. A lot of points, 56.5 over under, so they're expecting a lot of points. I don't necessarily see it going as that many points, but look for that one to be a good game. That's another 7:30 kickoff right there. So look for that to be a great game. And now for the last game of the week. Game day will be in Eugene for this weekend. Oregon versus Indiana. 7th-ranked Indiana taking on number 3 Oregon. Oregon coming off a great win against Penn State in Happy Valley. night game whiteout, where they played really well. Dante Moore, Heisman favorite, Oregon's quarterback at this point in the season. He's played really well. Not a lot of people talking about Oregon until they played that Penn State team because they hadn't really played anybody, but I think there will be a bunch of points in this game. Really be a high-scoring game for Oregon. I don't know if Indiana puts up that many points, but I think Oregon puts up a ton. Obviously, we saw Indiana dominate Illinois earlier in the season, so they can put up some points, but can they put up points against this Oregon defense, who has looked, well, we all know about Oregon is they don't really like to play that much defense down there. They like to really run away with their offense, so look for Oregon to really come out firing in this one, take a lot of deep shots. Dante Moore, another great game for him, I think, in this one. They're favored by 7.5 in this one at home. Indiana, on the other hand, undefeated. They had a huge win against Illinois, like I said. The coach does win. Look him up. He does win until they play a good team in the playoffs. But yeah, he wins. So, but Indiana, I think they could keep this game close in the beginning, but I don't think they keep up with this high-powered Oregon offense. I think Oregon puts up over 40 in this one, and I think Indiana is lucky to put up 30. And that's probably being, like, favorite toward them. I think that's probably being nice, putting up 30 for them. So I think Oregon blows them out in this one. I think Dante Moore has another impressive game, and I think Oregon kind of just runs them out of the building by early second half. I think this game's pretty much over. So I don't think this is necessarily going to be as good of a game as people think. This is a 3:30 kickoff, so another good game there. You got 3:30 Oregon, Indiana, 3:30 Texas, Oklahoma. So a couple good games at 3:30. Got pretty good games all the way through. Noon's got some good games. 3:30's got some good games. We got some good games at night as well. So other games to look out for. South Carolina has to go into Baton Rouge to play LSU. That game could be interesting if South Carolina shows up. LSU favored by 9.5 in that one, but could end up being a good game. BYU has to go on the road to face Arizona. BYU undefeated 5-0, 18th in the country. Arizona sitting at 4-1, very good team. BYU's only favored by 1.5 in that one, so that's another game you could possibly work out for. And then Florida goes to Texas A&M. I don't know if this is necessarily as good of a game. Texas A&M favored by 7.5, but Florida coming off that big win last week. So look for that game to maybe be good as well. So a couple other games that could be good this weekend. Should be a great slate of games all day and going into the night. So that's all the games I'll talk about in this episode. Thank you for watching. I am Carson Becker, and I will see you next time.